Não é tempo técnico, mas é intervalo aqui no podcast. Já imaginou se seu time tivesse um seguro para não perder nunca? Pois é, isso não existe. Mas com a Zurich Seguros, quem não perde nunca é você. Na Zurich Seguros, os planos se adequam às suas necessidades em qualquer momento da sua vida. Seja seguro de auto, residência, vida e muito mais. Diferente de alguns times, na Zurich Seguros você pode confiar. Para saber mais, acesse zurich.com.br ou consulte seu corretor.
Sair da escola já com uma formação profissional no currículo? Parece bom demais pra ser verdade, né? Pois é. No ensino técnico do Senac, isso é possível. É ensino médio junto com formação técnica, que acontece durante os 3 anos. Lá, eles usam metodologia para projetos, desenvolvendo competências como resolução de problemas, pensamento crítico e colaboração, além de valores éticos e sustentáveis. Quer saber? Senac. Acesse sp.senac.br/ensino médio e saiba mais.
We're here for Week 11 of the D3 Coach and Coordinators of the Week, presented by Hanson Ratings, and joining me as he does each week through the season is Logan Hanson. Logan, it's hard to believe we've been through this entire regular season. It seems that it's gone so fast now.
I know. Every year when you get to the end of the season, it's hard to believe that you got through the whole thing. And I'm sure for the players who played their last game and the coaches who coached their last game on Saturday, it's a little bit more difficult to accept than for us. Every year is its own deal, and for a lot of teams, that season's done. But we're going to honor some staff who did some great work this weekend.
Definitely, and we have, again, the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and the head coach and staff of the week. Teams that have done an outstanding job here in the last week of the season, and some of them just excelled throughout. So we're going to talk about all of them, and let's start with our offensive coordinator of the week.
Yeah, this week, just all across the board, offense, defense, for the entire staff. This was probably the most difficult week for me to single out just one staff. So I'm probably going to give some shout outs to a bunch of teams who had great performances before I get rolling here, because I had 8 different teams who graded out with at least an A+ on offense this week. We had Mary Hardin Baylor, Bridgewater, Wartburg, Illinois College scored 96 points, Christopher Newport, John Carroll, Delaware Valley. A lot of teams had great performances, but this week the honor goes to James Houck of Wheaton College. They won 66-14 against North Park, and North Park this year had a great season, one of their best in the history of their program, and Wheaton came in and needed to win this game to keep their postseason hopes alive, and they did everything that they possibly could. They had 555 yards of total offense on 8.5 yards per play. They never punted. They were never sacked. I think total on the game they had -5 or only lost yardage on 5 rushing plays. So they were moving forward the entire game. And most of their starters were out by half. That's kind of why I decided to go this way, because it wasn't just a team trying to put up a big number in the last game of the year. This was a team that came in with a plan, and everybody on that entire roster was locked in for the entire game. Even the backup quarterback went 9 for 14 passing. 10 different players rushed the ball. 11 different players caught a pass. And they had 6 different players score touchdowns. So Wheaton, at the beginning of the year, we had a couple teams that played them that got defensive coordinators of the week, but their offense really turned a corner in the second half of the season and got back to what we expect from Wheaton offensively, and really finished the season on a high note. And now they're going to be going to the Isthmus Bowl in Madison, Wisconsin next week to play a bowl game. So good luck to Coach and his staff, and congratulations on winning our Coordinator of the Week.
Let's talk to Coach Houck. Joining me now is our D3 Offensive Coordinator of the Week for Week 11, James Houck from Wheaton. Coach Houck, great to have you here, and congratulations on being named our D3 Offensive Coordinator of the Week.
Thanks, Keith. Really appreciate it. Our staff did a tremendous job this last week. Coach Scott is an offensive wizard, and it's fun to work under him and alongside him with our offense. And Our position coaches have did a great job last week, and our guys ramped up and ready to go to play really hard and execute the game plan.
Because we're going to get a little bit into your philosophy. And for you, it's about the who and the what, and really defining the big picture. Who are your players? How do you play to their strengths? So we'd love to hear about your philosophy and how that works for you. Obviously worked very well with all the guys who contributed this past week, but as well over the course of the season with you guys doing a great job.
Yeah, we're really big on prioritizing our players first. The formula that's been tossed around football for a while, but players are more important than formations, and formations are more important than plays. So we want to find what do our guys do best, use formations and motions. We do that quite a bit to get them in places to be successful. And then, of course, we have plays we like and that we're good at, but we want to prioritize our players first.
So when you look at that and you're breaking it down, you're looking at the players you have coming back each year. How do you start to organize those strengths so that you figure out how the puzzle pieces are going to fit together?
Yeah, kind of dive into this year a little bit. It was really unique. Replaced a lot of starters from a really successful offense last year. Got hit with the injury bug in training camp, and so we had to kind of reset and do that again a couple points of this season. Really proud of our guys who have stepped up and found roles in our offense to help us be successful. But we really find what do those guys do well. For instance, our top receiver, Ben Bonga, trying to find ways to get him one-on-one on a DB or a safety and finding ways to match them. But it comes down really to start with our O-line and quarterback, I would say. What can our quarterback do well? Is he a big arm guy that is only limited to the pocket? Is he a guy that can be mobile? We can involve him in Q run. Is he only a guy that can throw the ball accurately up to 20 yards, or can he take the deep ball? So find out, what does that QB do well? And the run game, what does our O-line gel with? Are they a big, strong inside zone group that works together in that way? Are they more agile and we need to get them on the edge and do wide zone and pull them? And so really trying to find those pieces. So spring ball is really big for us. Teaching our offense again, find out what do those guys look like on the field. Training camp kind of verifies those solutions, and then really hone in on our identity of what that group is good at.
Yeah, I agree that those are really two starting points there with your quarterback and what he can do, and then that offensive line and how they marry up. And I've had those situations where it's varied. Some years you have those big, strong road graders, and other times you have those more athletic guys, and you got to kind of vary things for them. When you look at then the other pieces, how the running backs fit in what they're good at, we've found maybe some discrepancies too, where, hey, we've really got this good gap scheme team, but man, this guy's a great zone runner. Yeah. How do you start to marry that up? Where do you find, I guess where those roads intersect so that you guys are maximizing all those talents?
Yeah, that's a good question. We've been pretty fortunate having Giovanni Weeks in our backfield the last 4 years, setting just about every record you can think of. And so guys with lots of experience help that, where they've done a couple different things over the course of their career with different identities and can kind of marry that up. But it's really trying to, it's kind of a puzzle, kind of like you were saying. You got to match it all up and make sure it all makes sense. There's some stuff that our perimeter is really good at, but if the quarterback's not comfortable, you really can't run those plays. And so trying to really sell to our guys what we are trying to do, I think that's probably how you pair it up. Why are we calling these plays? Why are we designing these plays? Because the defense is giving us something consistently and really teaching them to buy in that. And I think that's probably where the marrying comes in, is getting them to believe in the game plan and understand why this play could be successful.
When you look at what you'll be going into here soon and getting heavy into the recruiting and getting that next class in here, you want to try to recruit to a certain skill set, but, at the D3 level, you can't necessarily get that cookie cutter guy. So how do you really look at your recruiting class and how those guys might fit and bringing in, I guess, the right mix of guys to your roster?
Yeah, I think we really keep it simple and recruit the best guys. If they're having success, if they're a good football player, we want them. And then it's up to us as coaches to really find out, how to use their skill sets, their advantage, and how we design our plays. And so not trying to really fit, this is what our X receiver looks like, or this is what our tight end looks like. If they have a successful high school career and we envision them having a good college career, we're going to recruit them, and they may not look the same as the previous guy in front of them as they come into the team, but we're going to find a way to use their assets and their skills to their advantage.
Now, a big part of utilizing guys and utilizing their strength is how you're going to align them, how you're going to move them around. The formation's part of this, right? So in looking back at this past season, were there any things formationally or motion-wise that I guess were a little bit unique as to this year?
Yeah, that's a good question. We did a probably a little bit different stuff just because of who we had back and who we were missing. But really, we're going to have our base formations. We're going to use some of those formations to pre-align to the defense and then motion, and all we're doing is getting to another formation. So we've used fast motions a lot this year, trying to make the defense have to adjust quickly. And really, if we can take the D coordinator off the field in a sense and make the defense have to make their own checks, that's going to help us in the long run because we know where the ball is going. We know what we're trying to do, and they're having to adjust late. So fast motions are a big piece of our offense, and whether that's getting an extra hat in the run fit or whether that's trying to get them to pass off coverage assignments in a hurry, that's really what we have used the past couple of years and something that we think is easy for our guys and hard on the guys on the other side.
Yeah, that's something I've seen a lot of teams trending back to is moving people around, whether that's shifts or motions. We went through that era of let's go as fast as we can. So we eliminated shifts, we eliminated motions, and now everybody's looking at how do we get them back in. And you can point to the highest level in what those guys do. I mean, they got to be very good at manipulating a defense to find their advantages, to find windows to throw in, et cetera. And some of the best teams in the NFL have very high percentage of movement on plays. I think high 70%. You get into some of that's a lot of the Shanahan tree likes to use it, but for you guys, what's that mix of tempo and motion and shift?
Tempo, we're going to be a no-huddle team. Sometimes we'll take our time calling the play and getting it set. Sometimes we're trying to go fast. We'll have a few calls that are very simple. We can call quickly and everyone can get set and run it as fast as we can. And there's times that we'll huddle and we'll break the huddle and get set in that way. And I think there's advantages to all of those things. The Harbaugh system of huddling all the time so the defense has to react to where the guys are going quickly. It is advantageous, but I also think getting lined up in a hurry while teams are trying to sub after a big play or on a second and short can be helpful as well. So we try to mix and match a lot of those things. And again, trying to keep the defense guessing and be really multiple in that way.
When you're looking at that, and I think we went through this exercise and transitioned from being more of, hey, we're going to run as many plays as we can to using it when it's an advantage and using all those different procedural tools like you mentioned there. How do you view that from a game planning standpoint, right? Because to me, it's not something when you start to look at multiple procedures that I will just figure it out as we go in the game, that I think you start to plan how those work together.
Yeah, for sure. Watching film, sometimes, you figure out what plays you like. That's easy to get on paper first. And then how can we dress those up? How can we move guys around? Maybe it's pairing off something that we've been running consistently the last 3 weeks, and now we're going to run something a little different off that same action. Sometimes in terms of when we huddle, sometimes it's just as simple as the play call is really long and we want to make sure it's clearly communicated. So we're going to huddle for that. And so that's really kind of the second step. We get our plays that we want to run down first and then kind of sit down and brainstorm, myself and Coach Scott, and see how do we want to dress these up? How can we dress up this play that's been really successful for us all year just a little bit differently so we can hide it? Other times it's how can we run this play, but we want to get this guy involved doing this certain aspect of it instead of what we've been running the last few weeks. And so kind of going back to the who first, and then we can hide some plays and create some looks where they're expecting one thing and we're doing another. We're going to try to change those up a little bit.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you taking the time this week. I know you're preparing for a bowl game, so best of luck in the bowl game. Congratulations on being named our D3 Offensive Coordinator of the Week.
Thanks, Keith. Really appreciate it.
Logan, probably a lot of defensive performances here that you liked, but who do we decide on for our D3 Defensive Coordinator of the Week?
Yeah, like I said earlier, there was a lot of staffs that this award could have gone to. I had 7 different staffs with an A grade. Grove City, River Falls, Susquehanna, Whitewater, Geneva, and Muhlenberg all had A grades. Muhlenberg had 11 tackles for a loss. That was a great performance by them. But this week, I'm giving the honor to Jackson Vaughan of Linfield. Linfield last week got it offensively. This week they got it defensively, and it was well earned. They played a game must win to get into the playoffs to get their conference title against a team that beat them a year ago, Whitworth, and they won 34-7. Whitworth great offense. They had scored at least 30 points in every single game this season, and Linfield held them to 7. And they did it by only allowing 221 total yards from their conference's top offense. And they only allowed 5.1 yards per pass, and they had 1 sack, 1 interception, 5 pass breakups, and 3 quarterback hits, limiting big plays, getting in the backfield, having havoc plays. They had 6 TFLs on run plays and only allowed 43 total rushing yards. And part of the reason that is so impressive is Whitworth earlier this year had their running back run for over 350 yards in a game. So the fact that they were able to have this performance against that caliber of an offense is what earned Linfield and Coach Vaughan our Defensive Coordinator of the Week.
Let's hear from Coach Vaughan. We're here with our D3 Defensive Coordinator of the Week for Week 11, Jackson Vaughan at Linfield. Coach, congratulations on being our D3 Defensive Coordinator of the Week.
Appreciate it. Obviously all you guys are doing for D3 football and getting the word out about obviously all the small colleges, and obviously take our staff. We have a great defensive staff, and obviously our head coach as well. Just kind of lets us do our thing on defense, but was a defensive guy himself before he became our head coach. So certainly values obviously what we do on defense.
So we'd love to hear about the way that you guys progress. I know we're going to talk a little bit about goals here today, but starting with your philosophy, because I think it's important to you guys. You're obviously doing very well. We had your offensive coordinator on here just a week ago, and you guys are doing it on the defensive side of the ball as well. That usually is indicative of a very strong culture. And for you, that's everything that you guys are doing on your side of the ball supports and really is traced back to all the things culturally that you're doing too. So we'd love to hear how that overarching philosophy that develops your culture really then comes together and what you guys do from a practical standpoint on defense.
Yeah, doing this for a long time, and it kind of stemmed, like I said, our head coach was our D coordinator before I was, and Jay Losey was our D coordinator before that, who ended up going on and coaching at Oregon State for a while. And so I've been here and learned from some great guys, and I think they taught me, really on defense is the main way to win games on defense is to minimize points. And so then you go about how are you going to do that? And so we really kind of delved into it over the years in terms of analytics a little bit and studies, and not as deep as probably as you and Logan do by any means, but certainly not giving up big plays is at the top of the list. And then also on the counter into that, causing some disruption plays, negative plays to the offense that can basically put them behind the chains and ruin a series. And so those are probably the two things we look at a lot is what can we do schematically and design wise to make sure that we're obviously limiting big plays, but also at the same time being aggressive enough on defense to create negative plays and get teams behind the sticks. So we've been a team that's, I think, done a good job over the years. We've had several years we've led the country in sacks and tackles for loss. And so we, I think, do a good job creating an attacking front that can do that, but at the same time on the back end, not isolating our guys too often in bad matchups and scenarios. So trying to marry those two things together. And I think we do a good job right from the get-go with our guys. Like we really talk about the minimize points thing and not giving up big plays. And that's at the top of our list in terms of priorities every week. But then also all those sub goals that go within that. And so we have probably 15 little sub goals that go in between how do you actually accomplish minimizing points. And everything in regards to that is covered in terms of tackling, pursuit, effort is obviously in there that makes up for a lot of things. But number one, being aligned correctly, making sure that we're reading the right keys and seeing the right things. It goes a lot along that. A lot of big plays are given up anymore just by teams not being aligned correctly or having a numbers disadvantage by a formation the offense is creating. So trying to make sure that we're very sound all the time in terms of the numbers equating and knowing what we're reading, especially now the last couple of years, boundary formations become in vogue. So just being able to adjust, that's kind of the new thing, I think, is everybody's running formations in the boundaries. So, but always trying to come back to those goals. And then we meet on Saturdays before the game and we kind of rehash and have maybe some new specific thoughts on that week with that opponent, how are we going to accomplish our goals. But then rehash on Monday very specifically, how many plays did we give up over 15 yards? How many plays did we give up in that 10 to 15 yard chunk? Really the plays over 15 are typically the most concerning. And like this weekend against Whitworth, that was a big goal. And we just gave up really one bigger chunk play early in the game. And then for the most part, we're able to eliminate most of the other big chunk plays. And they had been such a big play offense that we knew if we could do that, we felt pretty good about having a chance to win. And that pretty much will hold true, I think, as you go throughout the playoffs. The teams that are able to obviously get those chunk plays are going to be at a huge advantage.
So, Coach, going back to some of the things you said about your game goals and then the sub goals that are a part of them. Now, I imagine all those things come together. You talked about how, you're going to talk about them at the beginning of the week. Obviously, that is a lot of you reviewing how well you did with those. But I'm sure then those overarching things, as well as the little sub goals, you said about 15 of those, that those come together and really inform what does this next week of practice look like? What things do we need to focus on to improve? What things do we feel good about that we want to make sure we're just continuing to get better? How do you look at those things, I guess, from a functional standpoint? Is this a board on the wall? Is it a spreadsheet? How do you guys deal with this information in the meeting to make it something that's actionable?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have it for the very first team meeting. We have kind of, it's not a spreadsheet, but really it's a document, that we've made that kind of has all of them listed. But then that same thing gets shown again, pretty much, like I said, every Saturday. But then on Monday, the guys kind of know it by heart by now. So we just kind of go through the main ones and just kind of read off the stats, but then give the reasons also why. So typically when we go through and, for example, we gave up 4 big plays in the game, what was the reason why we gave up the 4 big plays? Was it schematics? Was it lack of execution? Was it sometimes just the offense made a great play, guy jumped over, caught a ball? Like, those are plays you don't like, but you can live with sometimes a little bit more. And so having that, but also like, how do we do on third down? How do we do on turnovers? How do we do on creating negative plays? How do we do in all those areas? And so I think when you go back and emphasize each of those categories, the guys get reminded very quickly of how are we doing, and they're important, and all those areas are important. But then when you go through the why of like, why did the big plays get created? Then I think you can always go back to why you tell them in the first place how they get created. And so, yeah, we had an assignment bust. Oh, we on this play, we missed 3 tackles. That was the root cause of obviously the big play to happen. And so then you can go back, and if you had a week where you had a particular area of concern where it was a bad tackling week, and there's your document. And if it's bad enough, some weeks we'll bring out the tape in front of the whole defense and watch those particularly 7 or 8 problematic plays where these were extremely bad this week, but they all had commonalities in terms of things. And then we've been taught at Linfield for a long time, you kind of see what you coach. Then we have to look inward as coaches and be like, okay, what did we do wrong as coaches to produce the result we got on the field that week? So if it was a bad tackling week, then we got to own some of that on coaching. We obviously didn't do a good enough job in the recent weeks coaching up tackling and making sure we're getting enough tackling in during our individual drills. And so then built to reassess what we're doing in practice if that's an area that needs to be addressed in the coming week.
So taking this a step further, I think it's always the magic happens when you have that buy-in from the players and they own those things. And you mentioned, like, by this point in the season, they know what all these are. How much do you see your guys starting to coach each other up on those things, or make sure they see something that's wrong, they're calling it out too? So it's not always coming later in game film and those things that you're making those corrections.
Yeah, I think guys just take pride in it because they see that's what it takes to be successful, and everybody's trying to be, I think when you have a good culture, like everybody ends up wanting to be not the guy that lets the defense down. And unfortunately, defense and offense, but defense is one. Obviously, you can have 10 guys do the right thing, and if one guy screws up, the defense isn't very good. So if they find that right matchup or that right mistake gets exposed. And so I think having guys own that, taking a lot of personal pride and accountability that I got to do my job in the defense. And obviously, everybody has a different job, whether it's a defensive tackle taking on a double team or whether it's a safety being in the deep middle. Everybody's got a job all the time. And so I think more anything, just taking accountability in your job, and that's obviously nothing new. Obviously got made obviously famous with the Patriots, and they're do your job, but obviously that's not new to football either. But I think the good programs and good cultures certainly have a high account of kind of personal accountability in the defense for all those goals, doing them correctly. So that's what's going to make the defense successful.
Coach, you guys are doing some things right because those things definitely have showed up for you this year. You guys continue on in the playoffs, and again, want to congratulate you and the Wildcats for being named our D3 Defensive Coordinator of the Week, and best of luck to you guys in the playoffs.
Appreciate it. Again, appreciate all you guys are doing for small college football. It's awesome.
That takes us to our final honor, which we always save for the last each week, our head coach and staff of the week. Logan, who do we honor this week?
This week, that honor goes to Coach Tom Perkovich and his staff at Susquehanna, who beat Lycoming 55-7. Teams in the Landmark Conference, and Susquehanna completely took care of business from start to finish. They outgained Lyco 572 to 238, and then they nearly tripled them up on yards per play, 9.4 versus 3.7. Susquehanna only punted once. They were perfect in the red zone on offense, and offensively they had great performances from their best players. They had a 250-yard passer, a 150-yard rusher, and were 1 yard away from having a 100-yard receiver. But they also got it done on defense. They only allowed 2.3 yards per rush and 4.9 yards per dropback. It wasn't just an offensive show, and similar to Wheaton, this wasn't a case of leaving the starters in throughout the entire game just so that they could put up a number. This was the first string and the second string, everybody locked in, doing it against a high-quality opponent, and that's what earned them and Coach Perkovich, our coaching staff of the week. Congrats to the Riverhawks.
We talked to Coach Perkovich earlier in this season. We'll link that show as well. So let's talk to Coach Perkovich. Our final Week 11 head coach and staff of the week goes to Susquehanna, and Coach Perkovich has been with us here before, so we're happy to have him back again. Coach, congrats to you and your staff on being recognized by Logan Hanson and coaching coordinator as our Week 11 head coach and staff of the week.
Yeah, really appreciate it. A lot of hard work goes into it, and our staff's done a great job all year. And to be recognized as from a national standpoint is really an honor. We're super excited about it, and I'm really happy for our guys that put all the work.
So since we last talked, there's been a few changes that have come throughout the season. You and I got together and we aired that episode more towards the beginning of the season. But one of the things that's changed for you is that you gave up play calling duties, and that's not always an easy thing to do. Would love to hear about how you did that, why you did it. And there's always a process that goes along in making sure that next guy is ready and can succeed.
Yeah, so I think it started years ago, really, but to make that final decision, when Pat Ruley, our defensive coordinator, left in late June for the head coaching job at Rowan, which we knew was going to happen at some point because he's done such a great job. But I think at that point I was really just torn on, what do I do with myself as the head coach and the play caller on offense? For me, there's probably no one that loves calling plays more than I do. It's something I just love, and it was something that helped me get this job that I have now as the head coach, and because I've done it for a long time and just loved that part of the game and the preparation. But I felt like it was time for me to be able to help as we transitioned late in the summer on the defensive side and all the pieces that had to move there. I thought it was time that I was able to help maybe with more of that side and being involved and helping our young coordinator on game day. And then we had a new special teams coordinator also. So as we moved pieces there, it was just, I felt like it was time. And for a while now, Mike Wine, our offensive coordinator, he's been with us for 6 seasons and just done a great job in so many ways. I mean, he's been the running back coach. He's been the receiver coach. He's been the quarterback coach. He's moved around the staff and done a great job at every stop. And a few years ago, I was letting him, as I felt like he was ready, I was letting him call all of our developmental part of practice. So on Thursdays, what we do here is we let those guys scrimmage, the guys that are kind of that sub-varsity group. They scrimmage and get those reps, and we steal time with those guys a lot during camp. And I started letting him call that and feel what it was like to call plays and have maybe a new appreciation for it, but definitely understanding how to do it and the pieces that go into it and what to do and how to do it. And he did a great job. And then 2 seasons ago, I allowed him to, even in the game planning part of it, he called third down in 22 and 23 when we were top 20 in the country both those years on third down. So gave him that piece to handle, and he did an awesome job. And then when we would get up kind of in some of the blowout situations, would also let him call those guys, the twos, when the twos went in, and even sometimes the threes, depending on the situation. It got out of hand. I let him call that end of the game. And so I think just when it was time, I felt super comfortable that I had done enough with Mike to know that he was ready to call the plays. I'm still heavily involved on that side. I still coach the offensive line and meet with the running backs on a daily basis, but I knew that I thought we had done enough preparation-wise to really help Mike be ready. And man, has he done a great job this year with the numbers we put up, and number 3 in the country in total offense and 48.5 points a game on the year, and just some great game plans. And sometimes it's good to have different things, but I think you can't just throw it against the wall, right? There's got to be a preparation that goes into it. There's got to be a plan. And I had started that plan because I knew that at someday I was going to have to do this or need to do this as things change in our program. And I think it was time, and we moved ahead with it.
I love how that transitioned for a couple of reasons. One, having been there myself, I know that's not an easy thing to let go of. Like you said, you got to the position you're in because of the job you were doing as an offensive coordinator and a play caller. So those aren't always things that are easy to step away from. And it's fun. I mean, it is, as a coach, very satisfying to be out there on game day and have that kind of involvement. So giving him those pieces along the way, giving him those opportunities along the way, kind of a transition for both of you. What is it like to step away from this a little bit? And then I think also taking that kind of approach allows you to think about how you're going to make yourself the most effective moving forward as you transition out of it. What is going to be your involvement? How are you going to help in other parts of the program? Like you said, new defensive coordinator, helping the special teams coordinator, whatever it might be. I think that transition plan is really smart. It's probably something a lot of coaches should think about in asking themselves, well, what if I want to get to that point where I don't want to call this? How am I going to get there? I think that's, looking at what you've done, I think a very effective way of doing it.
I think you have to have a plan, right? We talk about it all the time here, like plan your work and work your plan, right? And my biggest worry, Keith, as we went into it was if I was going to give it up, I had to give it up, right? I didn't want to micromanage him. I didn't want to second guess every call. And have there been times where I've stepped in and said, hey, I want to run this, or I want to run this, or I've called the player to? Yeah, but my biggest worry, right, is just you have the title. You're the guy calling it. The guy that just got done calling it is like calling every other play, right? And I think that's a mistake. If that happens, I think you have to let the play caller kind of have his identity and what he wants to do. And Mike's a little more aggressive than I am at times, than I would be. And I think that's good. And it's just something, I think that was my biggest worry, but the way he handled camp and the way he went through the start of the season, I was able to kind of take a deep breath and just give him the things, the adjustments, right? And someone said to me last year, and this a real good friend of mine who calls it at the S level, he said, as a head coach, right, your job on game day is to solve the problems. And for me, as the coordinator, there were times when I wasn't able to do that, right? Because my nose is in the play sheet. And now I'm able to do that more. I'm able to talk to the DB that needs to know this, or the guy on kickoff, or the things that we're seeing. And now they're not just hearing it from an assistant coach, they're hearing it from the head coach. And there's a little more to that, I think, for the players. It was a little bit of a transition for our players on defense because they hadn't heard a ton from me, because with Pat, I let Pat run with it as he went. And I think it's just helped our program in a lot of ways to become tighter and have more relationships and understand exactly what we want to get done. But sometimes it's hard to do, but sometimes you got to make those hard decisions. Definitely.
I love the explanation of how this really evolved. This was an evolution. It wasn't something that just, okay, it's you now, go do it. And really that's an approach. And before we got talking, you take every single year, you guys have been performing on a very high level. You look at the numbers, you could make the argument that, hey, there's no need to evolve. We're doing well, but you guys continue to study it. You look at things every off season. That's hopefully 5-6 weeks away from you even having to think about that. And that's certainly a possibility with the way you guys are playing, but you guys are continuously looking for new ideas. We'd love to hear a little bit about that, especially for our coaches who are in the clubhouse now and looking to get their off season started.
Yeah, I learned that from my mentor, Mike Donnelly at Muhlenberg. He was 40 years in the game, and I don't think there was anyone with more thirst for knowledge of how to do something better, how to reword your manual every year to make it make more sense. And he always wanted to go out and talk to these coaches and this coach. And we flew us out to Northwestern one year, and we would go to all the local colleges. And we're blessed in Pennsylvania, right? In this area, there's a million colleges. And with my experience of I've been doing this 22 years now in college, and I know a lot of people. I think for me, and I think this may run in the face for some guys that don't agree with this, I think clinics are great when you go to those big clinics like Glacier and all that stuff, and you can get a lot out of it. I think you have to follow up with coaches from that. I personally will go to some of those, but I like going to places that I know people. I trust people. I can ask really in-depth questions to people about when they're running whatever scheme it is or technique. It's like, how are you combating this, or how are you doing this? Or my mind works in a way that I'm thinking about all the things we see right on a daily basis, and how are we going to attack them, or what are we having problems with? And hey, this is how we would attack it. Okay, well, what are you doing if you get this or get that? And I think when people are get to know people better, it's going to open up to more depth. It's going to make you think about things differently. And we've, even from last year, I mean, we went undefeated the last two regular seasons. Obviously the playoffs we've got to get better at, but we put up some great numbers on both sides. But we went out to 5 or 6 different staffs in our area and sat down and spent time and spent the money, to be honest, out of fundraising to learn and get better as a staff. And I'm excited for our new defensive coordinator to do some of that this year as he got hired in July, right? So he's going to have an off season. Offensively, we're going to go back out and talk to some of those people and people that are putting up numbers and people that we know and trust. And I think that's for high school guys, man, like our door's open. It's amazing that we don't have as many coaches that come and see us and talk football. Those intimate settings can really make you better instead of the group setting. I think you can ask questions, and sometimes it's just about getting one thing, right? You can sit and talk a whole day, and you don't have to get everything. You don't have to take everything from somebody. But if you get 1 or 2 things that help your program get better, it was worth the trip. New way to coach a technique up front on offense or at receiver or quarterback or whatever. And it makes you think about changing things. And we did a lot of changes with our quarterback, and the proof's in the pudding from one year to the next on just how we taught it. We're not teaching a lot of new plays, just how we presented it. That changed, and that's helped him immensely have a year that we've had. And I think that's what you got to look at. You got to look yourself in the mirror, but go to places where you know people, go to places you trust, go to places where you can have an intimate conversation about what you're looking at, and that will help you more than a 1-hour clinic. Not to say they're bad, but I think those can connect you to people to have those further conversations. But I think there's a lot more out there for guys.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. As a guy who runs a lot of these virtual clinics, and they've been tremendous. I think they're a way to get some great overview, to pick up little things here and there, but to really get the depth that you need to make those ideas come to life. You are going to have to spend more time. You are going to have to invest more in it. There are no shortcuts in learning. And I think I'm somebody who always loved to attend the clinics, would love to pick up any kind of books, DVDs, whatever, but ultimately was then saying, okay, I need to really go learn this more in depth from this particular guy, because this just aligns with what I feel like I want to do. And I think it's making sure you have those relationships, that you get out there, that you build those things. I don't think that part of it will ever change from the game, no matter how much content, videos, courses, all the stuff we put out there. You're still going to have to sit down in a room with somebody and dig into it.
Absolutely. And I think the one thing, my one message for anyone listening is, don't think the coaches are too busy, right? Coaches want to talk ball way more than some of the other stuff that we have to do. I love when people come. I love it when we have the people. It's few and far between, but when people make the decision to come and talk some ball with us or get together, and we love it, man. And don't think that we're not willing to spend the time or anything. Like, reach out, make the trip, or let's figure something out. But even if it's Zoom, and Zoom today obviously can get a lot of stuff accomplished there. But I think reach out. There's nothing that's going to hurt that. Don't think you're bothering us, because you're not. We're all football coaches, no matter what level. It's all the same stuff. It's just different players doing it. Someone said, right, it's the difference between The football sometimes is 2 inches and 2/10. It's bigger and faster, but what we're doing is very similar, and there's a lot that people can get out of it. But reach out to the coaches you want to learn from.
Great advice, Coach. I appreciate you taking the time. Congratulations again to you and your staff on being named our head coach and staff of the week, and best of luck to you and the River Hawks throughout the playoffs.
I appreciate it, Keith. And again, thank you so much for the honor for our staff. It's something special.
Logan, like I said, hard to believe we've made it through these 11 weeks of the season. We're heading into the playoffs right now, and we're going to continue to ride this through. It's been a fun series, but we're going to kind of flip things a little bit, talk about playoff teams, talk about some of these season awards, and talk to some of the statistical leaders throughout D3. And one of the first ones we're going to bring on here is Drew Chance, the offensive coordinator at Illinois College. Just an incredible season. These guys were putting up ridiculous numbers. They've been doing it now for a couple years, and Coach Chance is going to be joining us. I'm excited to hear from him, as well as some of the other coaches we'll talk to throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear from Coach Chance. I was able to watch them in person last year in the playoffs, and they brought in another good receiver to complement a guy who was the AFCA's National Offensive Player of the Year. Coach Chance has his little brother playing quarterback for him. That's a pretty cool thing. Sometimes you see the head coach and his son at quarterback. Not often you see it with the coordinator and a younger brother. But yeah, they put up some great numbers, but there's a lot of teams who excel in a lot of different facets of the game. And I'm excited to really dig into some numbers and get a lot of different staffs on here throughout the playoffs to talk to them and see what they're doing that's working for them and see how everybody can learn from what these successful teams are doing across the country.
At Coaching Coordinator, we pledge to source the latest and greatest products and services available in the coaching marketplace. We call this repository the 10% Toolkit. These resources are proven to help coaches win games and achieve all objectives for their programs. Think of it as a buyer's guide for vendors and suppliers we trust with our seal of certification. Follow all we're doing at coachandcoordinator.com and follow us on X at Coach K. Grabowski.